To install jQuery UI, you don't need to go get jQuery first. They come bundled together on the jQuery UI website. The first thing you want to do is go to jQueryUI.com. First, navigate to the themes. Now once you're in the themes, you're going to want to navigate to the gallery. There's a lot of options here, so you'll want to take your time and find the theme that fits the best with your website. For this demo, I'm going to use the smoothness theme. So you'll click the download button. This will take you to a download builder page. We are going to leave all the defaults checked and just scroll to the bottom of the page and click download. So let's extract the files and take a look. So this comes with a CSS folder and a JS folder with JavaScript in it. So let's start with the CSS. The CSS will come with a directory that's named with the theme that you chose. So in the CSS folder, you're going to get an images directory. Now some of this is going to be subject to preference, but here's what I recommend. You have two style sheets here. One is full and one is minified. If you don't know what minification is, I'll show you real quick. So this is a normal style sheet that you're used to looking at. It's formatted real nice. And here's a minified version of the style sheet. Basically, it's just really condensed, all the white space is taken out of it, and it loads much faster in the browser. Minification is recommended for page performance of your website. So keep the unminified version if you think you're going to heavily modify the styles, but otherwise just use the .min.css version. I recommend that you rename the jQuery-UI-version number.custom.min.css just to jQuery-UI.css. I say this because at some point, as the world changes and browsers update, you're going to want to upgrade your jQuery files. If you remove the versioning, you can still tell the version from the file at any time and still be able to sanely replace the files with newer ones without having to change every reference to the files in your HTML. Okay, so I'm going to use the minified version. And like I said, I'm going to rename it to jQuery-UI.css. I'm going to go ahead and take that and the images folder. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste that into my styles directory. I've got the jQuery-UI.css, and I have all of the UI images. I'm going to head over to my index.html page, and I'm going to add a reference to the jQuery UI style sheet. So remember, we put it in the styles directory, and we named it jQuery-UI.css. I'm going to save that. And so you might be thinking, how do I know that that worked? Well, go out to your website, and here we are on mine. Refresh the page and view the source. And you can see it's there. Not only do you want to see that it's there, but you want to make sure it's not a broken link, because maybe you typoed something. Click on it, and there we have it. There's the style sheet. So the next thing that we want to add is the JavaScript. So I'm going to go back out, and I'm going to go to the scripts directory. And I'm going back to the download. I'm going to go into the JS directory of the download. And just like the style sheet, I'm going to take the minified version of the jQuery UI library, and I'm going to rename it to jQuery-UI.js. And just like, if you're curious, just like with the style sheet, the minified version will look similar. It's just condensed with the white space removed, and it loads much faster in the browser. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the jQuery.js core library. So the two JavaScript files that are required for the jQuery UI install are the core jQuery.js and the jQuery-UI.js file. So I'm going to take these two, and I'm going to copy them. And once again, I'm in the scripts directory of my website. I'm going to paste them in here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to install this on my index.html page. Because I don't have a master template file or a template file, I am going to have to add it individually to each one of my HTML pages. But we'll just start with the index page. So script source equals scripts jQuery.js. There we go. So the first thing that's required here is the jQuery.js core library. That reference needs to come before your jQuery.ui.js file, or it won't load properly. So now I'm going to add the jQuery UI one. And I'm going to save that. And let's go out to my index.html page and see that it worked. So I'm going to refresh the page. I'm going to view the page source. And there we have it. I can see that they're there. Let's make sure that they load. And that's correct. Now let's check on the jQuery.ui one. And that's correct. And there we have it. jQuery and jQuery UI are properly installed. Welcome! I'm Marie Taylor, and in this course you will learn to use jQuery UI Widgets. I provided you with a basic static HTML website, so everything you see me do in the lectures you can try for yourself. It's available to download as materials in this lecture. We are going to cover how to install jQuery UI, the accordion, tabs, menu, tooltip, date picker, button widgets, plus some other cool theme elements. If you have any questions or get stuck at any point in the course, I'm here to help. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do to improve the UI on this website is install the accordion on this page. This is the index.html page that we just added the jQuery UI references to. So this page has some header tags and some content, and it's perfect for an accordion. So let's go over to the jQuery UI site. And click on the accordion widget. And there it is. So on every widget page, jQuery UI provides a view source option. Has a little eyeball icon. We're going to click that, and we're going to pull the important stuff from here. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, and this is true for every single one of these widgets, you're going to want the script tag that it comes with that calls the function that will create your widget. And then there's also a pattern that you need to follow with your HTML. So let's grab that script tag. And we are going to place that on our index.html page in the head tag underneath our script references. So we've got that. The second thing that's important, like I said before, is the pattern that you need to follow with the HTML. So the pattern for this particular widget is a parent element that's going to be a div tag with an ID of accordion. Underneath that parent element, so as you'll see there'll be an open tag and a close tag surrounding all of this. That's going to be our accordion. And beneath that parent is going to be a header tag. In this case, it will need to be an h3 tag followed by a div. So h3 div. h3 div. Now, whatever you put underneath that div isn't important in this case. So it doesn't have to be a paragraph tag. Some of you might be opposed to paragraph tags and prefer to use divs. Well, you don't need a paragraph tag. So you can put whatever you want underneath the div as long as it's valid, well-formed HTML. So let's go do that to our index.html page. So it looks like I already have the majority of the pattern here. I've got an h1 tag that says so many ideas, and I have h3 div, h3 div. So the thing that I'm missing is the parent element that's required. So that's going to be div ID equals accordion. Now let's make sure I go down here and I close that tag. So I've got my open tag and close tag, and I'm going to go ahead and format that. So div ID equals accordion. I've got h3 div. And let's verify. I've got my script up here, and accordion is spelled the same on the ID. And let's save that. And let's see if it worked. And there you have it. There's the accordion. So you might be wondering, what if I already have an ID on this parent and I want to use that ID? This wrapper here is my fancy content. Maybe I already have a class on it. Well, that's just fine. What you'll need to do is take the ID right here and make sure it matches the ID. We have a pound there, and that specifies ID just like you do in your CSS. So you're saying, I want to apply the accordion to the element with the ID, my fancy content. So let's save that. And just so that you believe me, let's view the page, let's view the element and inspect it. And you can see that we've got the UI accordion, my fancy content. So one thing to keep in mind here is that jQuery UI is going to be adding some classes and IDs to the things within here. Your my fancy content ID will remain intact. So if you already had some styles on there, say that you have some sort of global style, like you want a special font in there, or you have some special background color, well, that ID will honor it. But what it will do is it'll come in here and it'll add UI accordion, UI widget. So it's going to add all of these CSS classes that the jQuery UI library utilizes in order to make the widget happen. So there you have it, a jQuery UI accordion. Okay, so now we are going to install the jQuery UI widget tabs. So here we are on my About page, and I've got some information. Like the other page, I have some header tags and I have some content under each of those header tags. So let's go over to the jQuery UI site, and we are going to navigate to tabs. And there they are. So, like the other page that we were just looking at, there is a view source link with a little eyeball icon, and we are going to click on that. So the first important thing that we need to grab is the script tag from the top. So we're going to bring that in to our About page. And if you'll remember, I'm using the static HTML site, so each of these HTML pages is going to need the jQuery UI CSS files and the jQuery UI JS files and the jQuery core library added to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add the script tag in here, but it's not going to do anything until I go add my other references. So I'm going to go back to my index.html page, and I'm going to copy these references from the jQuery style sheet down to the jQuery core and the jQuery UI libraries. I'm going to paste that in above my script. There we have it. And let's look at the content of my page. So I've got an H1 that says all about this course. I have my course description. I've got my course author, course section, the stuff that we just saw on the front end of the site. Let's go back to the jQuery UI website and see what kind of pattern that they have for this. Well, it's not as ideal as last time. Last time I lucked out because I was already using H3 tags and divs for the content of my page. Well, for this one, the pattern that's followed for the tabs uses unordered list and list items. So, in this pattern, we have our header tabs in an unordered list with list items, and each of those list items has an anchor tag with an href that's referencing a matching div tag below it. So let's look real quick. We have an unordered list with, and I'm not going to try to say that out loud, with these three text headers. You can see them right here. So in this case, the headers are separate from the content. The tab headers are up here in the unordered list, and the content is down here. Each of the tabs matches to the content based on what we define in the href. So in this case, we have tabs 1. You see the pound there for the ID. And this div down here with ID tabs equals 2. So pay attention. We have this header, this content. This header, this content. This header, matching on tabs 2. This div, tabs 2. This content. So we are going to apply that logic to our page. We are going to first take our headers and make them into an unordered list. So I'm going to keep my h1 tag that says all about this course, and I'm going to build my tabs underneath this. So let's add our unordered list and give it the ID of tabs. So just to make things easier, let's go back and count and see how many headers we had. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and just pre-make some empty elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's going to be tabs 1. This one is going to be tabs 2. This one is going to be tabs 3. And this one is going to be tabs 4. So the first one is our course description. Notice I'm not cutting and pasting because I want to keep my content behind just in case I mess something up. Our second one is course author. So we have course description, course author, course section, and I'm going to be a little OCD and make that uppercase. And download the content. So there we have our header section. And let's see. I messed something up there. The ID doesn't go on the unordered list, it goes on the parent. So remember I said there needs to be a parent wrapper that we're applying the tabs widget to. So that's going to be tabs. We're going to wrap all of this in that and format it. and take that ID off there because it doesn't belong there. So we have our parent element with the ID of tabs on it. We have our unordered list that defines our tabs, and each of those contains an anchor tab, and each of those contains an anchor tag. Oh, I got that one right. There we go. So each one of those contains an anchor tab with an href that matches up to a div that we're going to have underneath this with an ID that matches tabs 1, tabs 2, tabs 3, tabs 4. So let's go look at that example again in here. So we have the parent element of tabs, we have our unordered list that defines the actual tab headers. They have an li with an anchor tag with an href. So now nothing wraps these guys down here. They're just floating separately underneath the unordered lists. So we have div ID tabs 1, div ID tabs 2, div ID tabs 3. And just like the accordion, whatever you have underneath this div doesn't matter as long as it's well-formed HTML. So it doesn't have to be a paragraph tag. It can be another div with separate classes and IDs on it. You could have images in there. So let's go and bring in our content. I'm going to do the same thing that I did up there. I have 4 of them. So I'm going to stub that out. One, 2, 3, 4. So the first one is going to be tabs 1. Second one, tabs 2. Third one, tabs 3. Fourth one will be tabs 4. So now let's go get our content. I'm not going to worry about just pulling the inner content. I'm going to go ahead and grab the whole div because it's allowed. So I've got that. That's for my course description. The second tab is going to be course author. So let's go ahead and grab that. And good enough. So we've got our tabs 2. So tabs 1, tabs 2. Tabs 1 is our course description. Tabs 2 is our course author. Now let's go get our course section. So we have tabs 3, open close tag. Make sure everything's closing inside of here. Now if you're reading it all, the text inside here, you can see that I lied about the ordering of my lectures. I hope you don't hold that against me. So I'm going to save that so I don't lose all of my precious work. So that's tabs 3. And then next we're going to add download the content for tabs 4. Let's go find that. And I'm going to just grab this div and I'm going to paste that in here. And good enough. So I'm going to blow out all this other stuff that I no longer need because I already copied it. And I'm just double checking my tags here to make sure they all match up. We've got the parent tab, the parent that's wrapping it, we've got an unordered list, and we have our matching tab div elements. Let's save that, and let's take a look. And there we have it. We've got our course description, we have our course author, we have course section, and we have download the content. So, like before, you might be thinking, well, maybe I want to name it something a little bit more descriptive. Like maybe I want to identify in my ID on my element something a little more than tabs-1. Well, this first one is my description. So as long as this guy matches with this guy, that's fine. Tabs description, tabs description. Tabs author, tabs author, tabs section, tabs section, and tabs download. So I'm going to refresh the page, and as you can see, it worked. And just so you'll believe me that I refreshed the page, let's go take a look. You can see that we have our A element here, and its href is tabs description. And if we scroll down, you can see that we have our div element here with the ID of tabs description. The same thing is true with the parent element as we were looking at with the accordion, and that is you are not required to name this ID of the parent element tag surrounding all of your content tabs. You can name it whatever you want. In this case, I'm going to call it My Fancy Tabs. Let's go back to the page, refresh. And just so you believe me, let's inspect the element, and you can see My Fancy Tabs. And there you have it, jQuery UI Tabs widget. So we're going to add this to my favorites page. As you can see, I've got some categories, and I have some links. So this will be perfect for the jQuery UI menu widget. So I'm going back to the jQuery UI website, and I'm navigating to the menu widget, and hey, there it is. This is what we want. So just like the others, we are going to scroll down, and we're going to find that view source link with the little eye icon. And just like the others, we care about this script tag. So I'm going to go to my favorites.html page and open that up and add that script. And just like before, I need to go get my references, and we'll steal them from the About page that we were just working on. So I need the jQuery-UI.css file, the jQuery core library, and the jQuery UI library. So I've got that, saving. And let's take a look at the structure that's required for the menu. So the menu uses a parent unordered list tag. This is going to be surrounding the entirety of our menu. It's not a div this time. And underneath the UL, we have a bunch of list item tags. And each of these list item tags can be either a href tag that doesn't go anywhere, or it can be an actual href tag that does go somewhere. Now, to get the effect of submenus, flyout menus on the right, we use nesting of the list item elements. So if you want a second level of flyout on the right for one of your menu items, you add the same thing. So you have a list item, you add your anchor tag, and underneath that anchor tag, you make a new unordered list. So you could make as many of these as you want. So let's look at the most complex one they have in this example. It goes all the way out this many levels deep. Now you could probably make as many levels as you want, but if it gets really complex, it's going to be bad UI. So you might want to limit that. So let's go take a look at that specific one so we can see how it's nested. So there it is. We have our list item, we have the anchor tag, and right below it we have a new unordered list defined. We have another list item, we have another anchor tag, and another unordered list defined with list items and anchor tags. So we're going to apply the same pattern to my website. We're in my favorites.html page, and as you can see, I've already got it in an unordered list, so great, we're part of the way there. So I have a parent unordered list tag, and we are going to need to add menu to that unordered list tag as an ID. So we have the menu. I have a list item, but unfortunately h3 tags aren't valid, so I'm going to make that an anchor tag. Okay, so I am changing that over to an anchor tag, and I'm going to keep my unordered list and list item here. I need to change this to an anchor tag as well. A, not Z. That's valid. This needs to be an anchor tag. I've got my unordered list and my list items nested. Those are valid. And same thing here, change this over to an anchor tag. And there we go, that looks right. So let's just verify. We have an unordered list as a parent tag. We have list items to define the first layer in the hierarchy of our menu. So we have list item, list item, list item with an href tag, foods, internet things, this site, not my FAQs. Underneath those, we have a second flyout submenu, and this is going to be defined with a nested unordered list right below the anchor tag. And it follows the same structure. It has a list item and it has an anchor tag inside that, list item, list item. So let's save that. And then let's go to my favorites page and let's refresh the page. Well, that's really wide. So let's go to our style sheet. And the ID is menu. So let's go to my style sheet and for the website, not the jQuery UI one. Going into styles, going to my style.css file. And I'm going to come down here and add a style for that whole menu. I'm going to give it a width 400 pixels. Let's go see what that looks like. And that's a little better. So we have foods, we have internet things, we have this site, and not my FAQs. Nice looking menu. So there we have it, a jQuery UI menu widget. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at is tooltips. So we kind of have this boring contact page. So it asks for your first name, your last name, and what do you want, and what day should I get back to you by. So we're going to spruce this up a bit with jQuery UI widgets. The first thing that we're going to do is jQuery tooltip. So let's go to the jQuery widgets section on the jQuery UI website, and we're going to look for tooltip. So there we have it, and there you see a tooltip. It just appears when I hover or click over the box, so when I'm in the area of that element. So once again, we're going to look for that view source link with a little iWidget icon. And the thing that we care about is this script block right here. So we are going to need to open up that contact page, contact.html, and we're going to add that script block here. And we are going to need to go and get the references to jQuery UI in order for this to work, because it's required on every single page that we want to use it. I'm going to steal this from the favorites page. So once again, our style sheet reference to jQuery UI, we have our two scripts, the jQuery core library and the jQuery UI library. I'm going to copy those, add those above my script tag. And there we have it. So this tooltip one is a little bit different than the other ones that we looked at, in that it's just applying it generally to the entire page. Well, you might be thinking, I don't really want a tooltip to show up on every single thing on my page. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't show up until you add some context. So tooltip is not going to show up on any element until you tell it to. So let's look at this again. I'm on my contact page and we want the first name and last name. So the syntax for the tooltip, and let's go ahead and look at the jQuery site so you can see what they do, is nothing else matters on here but the title tag. So in order for your tooltips to show up, you need to add a title tag to the element that you want it to show up for. That can be an anchor tag, it can be an input. So like you see here, there's a tooltips anchor tag here, and that shows up. And that shows up. So let's go ahead and add that to our contact form. So I'm going to add one to this, contact me, title, if you must. So let's go back to our page. Let's refresh that page, and let's hover over contact me. So contact me if you must. So let's go ahead and add something that would be a little bit more helpful. So title is the syntax. And so for your first name, I'm going to put doesn't need to be your real first name. Refresh that page. And there you have it. Doesn't need to be your real first name. I'm going to add another one to my text area. Title. What you really, really want. So I'm going to go ahead and hover over the over that box, and there you can see what you really want. And really, that's it. There you have it, jQuery UI Tooltip Widget. jQuery UI Date Picker Widget. So one way to get your users to type the correct format that you need in your input for the date is to just give them some sort of little text example. But another way to make it really easy for them is to add a date picker widget. So let's go over to jQueryui.com and navigate to the date picker widget. And here we have it. And as you can see, it allows the user to navigate through the months and pick a day and do it with a calendar that's in a format that they're used to working with. So let's look for the view source link with a little eye icon that we're familiar with. And let's just grab that script block for the date picker and add it to our contact page. So I've got that on my contact page. And I'm going to go and find the input for my text box for the date. And here it is. I'm going to go ahead and remove that little like in the date format because they're not going to need it anymore. And then I'm also going to change this to date picker. So as you can see, we are saying that we want to apply the date picker widget to the element that has the date picker ID on it. And you can see the same pattern here in this code. It's very simple. The only pattern is that it needs to be an input of type text, and we need to give it the ID of date picker. That needs to match up with the ID in the script tag. So as you can see, we've followed that same pattern, and we have date picker, and we have our script block up here. So let's go ahead and save that and see it in action on our contact page. So as you can see, we have our contact page that we recently just added our tooltips to. I'm going to refresh that page. And now we have a date picker. So please get back to me by August 2nd. There you have it, jQuery UI Date Picker Widget. So now let's take a look at the jQuery UI button widget, as well as some other theme elements that are included in the package. So I'm going to navigate to Widgets, Button, and look, there we have some really nice buttons with a rollover state, as well as a click state. Let's view the source. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab this script tag. And we're going to edit our contact.html page. So this is going to do something that I don't like, and that is it applies the button globally to every anchor tag, everything that has button on it, as well as just input type submit. So if you have an input type that's just a button, it's not going to apply to it unless it's a submit button. So we are going to change this instead to a class called button. We use a class because a class, as you know, can be used multiple times in an HTML document, whereas If we use an ID, we're going to have to list it out here several times for every single element we want it to apply to. So for this, we are just going to put a button class on every button in the site that we want to use this on. So I'm going to come down here, and so there isn't so much of a pattern to follow with this widget as there is with the other ones. So with this one, I'm kind of defining what I want to apply the button widget to, and in this case we are saying that we want to apply the the button widget to every element in the document object model that has the class button on it. So I'm going to go down to my submit tag here and add a class of button. I'm going to save that, and let's take a look. And there I have a nice button with a rollover state. So let's take a look at our other options here. As you noticed before, we had that applied to globally to every anchor tag, which we don't want to do because we have some other anchor tags in our document with some other styles. So if you're bringing over that button widget, be very careful about what's in this script block, because you're going to see some crazy stuff happen if you have some anchor tags in your website that you don't want that to apply to. But I am going to make an anchor tag that I do want it to apply to. And it's not going to go anywhere, really. And we are going to give it a class of button. And we're just going to say, click here. So let's refresh the page. And as you can see, I have a button made with an anchor tag that has the exact same look and feel to it, which is very handy if you're working with HTML and you have an anchor tag that needs to look and function like a button. So one of the coolest things that you can do with jQuery UI is utilize their set of icons that jQuery UI comes with. So as you can see, there's some buttons here with some nice little widgets on them. Like I have a lock button and a little widget image there. If you go over to themes, you can see the full package of the framework icons that are available to you. So let's go ahead and add one of these to the buttons. So if we go back to the demos and we go to the widgets, we can navigate to the button where we're just at. And on the right hand side here, they have another example for icons. So we're going to go to our view source link and we're going to check this out. So this is going to be a little bit more complex. What we're going to do here is we're going to care about this code inside the little dot button statement here. So after the open paren, there's an open bracket and it says icons, primary, UI icon locked, text false. We are going to just copy it from here down to here. And I'm going to go back to my code and I'm going to go back to what we have here. And I'm going to add that inside the button open paren, close paren. So what that's going to do is add the UI icon lock to every single one of my buttons. So that's cool and all, except I don't want that to happen to every single one of my buttons. I don't want it to just be a lock. So we're going to go back. So the thing that we were missing is that this text is false here, and so we need to change that to true. So I've got my my button, and I'm applying the button widget to it. And there's going to be an open paren and close paren. And this is, let's make this a little bit more clear to you guys. So this is what I added in between the open paren and the close paren for the button. I'm going to format that so you can see that this is saying that we want the UI icon locked and we don't want to display text on that button. Well, that's not true. So we want to use that. And we're going to add that. And the thing to keep in mind here is you're going to notice that obviously the icon isn't showing up on this first one here. Well, this class that we're applying here under the hood doesn't work on an input. This only works for our A tags that we're using, for our anchor elements that we're applying the button class to. Another thing to keep in mind is that you have all of those available to you to use. So if you go back to the themes, jQuery UI made it really easy for you. If you hover over any of these, you can see the class name for them. So let's say that I like the heart. So you can see the class name for that is UI-icon.-heart. And they all use the same naming convention. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and I'm going to change that to heart. And now I have a heart on my button. So let's say I don't want to add that to every single one of my buttons. Let's say I have some other buttons. So let's add some. So I've added these buttons and they all have hearts. And I don't want hearts on all of my buttons, just on the one that says click here. So let's go back. And we are going to take this script tag that we have for our button. And just to make it real easy, we are going to back out what we did there on the other one. And that is, we added an open curly bracket, closed curly bracket between our open and closed paren on the statement that says that I want to add the button widget to the element that has the class button on it. So we're going to go ahead and say that that statement is still true. And we're going to get rid of that open closed paren. So that looks right. So that was the original button code. So now here we've added another one, and this one says heart. We want the UI icon heart and to keep the text. So we're going to go ahead and say that this is a button heart. So if we want to save that, we can go back and see that the hearts are no longer going to appear on our buttons. And then we're going to come down here and we are going to say that I wanted it on this click here button. I want the button heart. And there we go. I have my heart button. So there's some other stuff that's available that's really handy to use in UI. And one thing is alerting the users of an error, or maybe giving them some suggestion on something that they need to do on the UI. A lot of times we'll do this with red text or something that just stands out to the user, and sometimes we don't even do it very well at all, and we'll say something like, make sure that you include this field and this field, and then the user doesn't see that and they click submit and then they get a bunch of errors and they have to go back and fix them. So a really cool way to kind of alert users to something that's important is to use this highlight error capability right here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to inspect this element for this highlight, and I like to think of it as giving somebody some important information. It's yellow, it stands out. So I'm going to copy this whole HTML and I'm going to paste it at the top, underneath contact me. So the syntax we have here is we have a class that says UI state highlight, UI corner all. That's going to give us the rounded corner effect. It's got some other inline styles here that I'm just gonna ditch that because we don't like inline styles. And on the inside of it we have a paragraph tag, and that's fine, we'll just leave that. It doesn't have to be though, that could be a div tag. The class on the span that's going to have that little info icon in it, remember the syntax for the icons is UI-icon-info. That gives us the little info icon. So that's included there. So I'm going to change this to warning. Please specify what date you want me to get back to you by, because I am very busy. So let's save that and we'll go back and look at our page. So as you can see, I have a nice little warning there. So let's say somebody made a mistake on our page, and this page really, if you look at the HTML, there isn't anything that's being done here. There's just a form with some elements and it's not posting anywhere, it's not being handled anywhere. But let's pretend that we have a form that's being posted and there's some sort of error. Like maybe I have something in my system where I count how many times somebody's contacted me and I want to say, you know, don't worry, I'm going to get back to you. Please stop sending me these contact forms. So let's go grab the HTML for the alert. Going to copy the HTML and I'm going to put this on here, save that, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that inline style off there because we don't like inline styles. You know, I kept the one on there as well, but really if I was going to go through here, I'd change this, and you know what, let's do that. I'm going to change this to a class that's going to be my alerts. I'm going to add that to the span. And I'm going to go into my style sheet for my website. And I'll go see what inline style were they going to add on there. I believe that's important, so we want to keep it. The other one I got rid of, it was just some padding, and it's not really necessary. It was specific to their own UI. So we got rid of that. We get rid of our inline style. Much better. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to have the alert. You've contacted me too many times this week, please stop. So let's pretend somebody's tried to submit our form and they've really just started contacting us like 20 times and we've just had enough. And there we have it. If you remember those UI icons, we can also change what those are. So let's say that you don't want this to be an infographic. Let's go over here to the available icons that we have. And let's say that we want to use a light bulb. So I'm going to come back and into my warning, and I'm going to change the UI icon info to UI icon light bulb. So I'm going to save that. And you can see it's changed to the light bulb. And there you have it, jQuery UI button widget, and other theme elements.